Hello, everyone. My name is Wyatt, and I'm here with my wife, Sapphire.
Hello.
Today, we're going to analyze the classic Disney animated movie Cars and kind of pick apart some of the interesting themes that run through it that may have not been outright intentional, but they are there.
And some of the intentional ones as well.
So, Cars came out in 2006, and it's a pretty modern computer animated movie. It's a Pixar film. And of course, they rule the computer animated movie industry. It was a big deal. I remember when I was a kid, it had a huge cultural impact. To this day, it's still one of the big kid movie franchises. So the movie follows...
Oh, sorry, can I say something?
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit bigger of a deal for boys than girls, actually. I think that boys naturally like cars. I think that girls weren't as interested in it.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to bet that you could probably go into the room of a, 10-year-old and you probably see like Cars stuff plastered on the... I'm surprised that you're... No, I was going to say I was surprised that your siblings don't, but then, they don't watch a lot of movies, so...
And to be fair, all my boy siblings are surrounded by girls, so...
That's fair. They kind of are at a disadvantage there.
Yeah, no, this is off topic, but my little brother is a twin sister, and both the sheets in their room were like girl themed because they were hand-me-downs.
Uh-huh.
And his grandma came, and she looked at the room, and she was, oh, does he like this, boy franchise? And my mom went, yep. And she's like, and I bought him new sheets. So.
So the movie follows the tale of one Lightning McQueen, who was voiced by Owen Wilson, and his character is a NASCAR race car. And the movie starts out with a NASCAR scene, with the Piston Cup, which is like their equivalent of the Toyota 500. And he's racing, and there's all this narration about him being a rookie. So he's a brand new guy, but he's like really hot stuff. And he has a huge ego, and that gets him into trouble. One of the people he's racing against is called The King, who is voiced by Richard Petty. Richard Petty. And even his wife is in this movie for a couple of scenes. He was a famous race car driver.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that.
You didn't know that.
That his wife was in the movie?
No, you didn't know that he was a famous race car driver.
Oh.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, I still didn't pick up that he was a famous race car driver from what you said. I thought you meant like in the movie.
Okay.
That's fun.
This is his last season. So Lightning McQueen really wants to win this race and get a sponsorship because Dynaco is like this big, amazing sponsor. Lightning is being sponsored by, and this is kind of funny, basically a herpes ointment.
Oh, is that the euphemism they're going for?
It's like it's like Rusty's bumper cream. So he goes into a sponsorship event with the Rusty's people, and the room is full of all these cars with like rust sores on their bumpers. There's a lot of risky jokes in this movie, like a couple of...
There is a surprising amount of risky jokes in this movie.
A couple of cars are like, oh my God, we love you. And later they rush up to him and flash their headlights. It's basically like boobs. It's funny.
I think we all know what flashing is, but I don't think you needed to.
So the meat of the story happens because the race is inconclusive and they have to do it again. Our computer is hot. That's why you're hearing that noise. And they have to do it again. Yeah. So the meat of the story happens because the race is inconclusive and they have to do it again and do another race. So everyone has to get across the country to this race, which is in like 2 weeks. And Lightning McQueen has fired his pit chief and pit crew. He doesn't want to work with anyone. It's the classic brash young hero who thinks he's hot stuff and can do it all on his own. So he tells his driver that they're going to drive all the way to California and not stop. I think legally there are rules in the trucking industry about how many hours a truck can be on the road. So you cannot do the thing that he's asking his driver to do in this movie. But for the necessity of the plot, he tells his driver to not stop, and they end up in this desert in the American Southwest, and the truck is falling asleep on the road, and he gets ganged up on by the cars from Fast and Furious. They run the truck off the road, and somehow the truck opens in the back, and lightning falls out, and gets stranded in the middle of nowhere. He tries to make it back to the interstate, and in the process, he comes across a speed trap and gets chased by a police officer and ruins the main street of this small town. That's where the plot of the story really begins, because he is forced to fix the road. The mayor decides to let him go, and this film has a lot of interesting character dynamics. There's the hot-head rookie with all talent and no skill. And then there's the...
with no, discipline. He has skill. He doesn't have discipline.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's kind of that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And then there's the female love interest, which feels weird to say in a movie about cars that are also people. Like, when we were watching this, I was thinking, how do they have sex? I mean, you've got a tailpipe, but...
Well, sort of going off that point, I don't think the world actually makes sense, because the movie does a very good job of not actually showing them picking things up, but there's lots of situations where it's sort of implied that most of the cars can sort of lift small items. So yeah, that didn't quite compute for me. Like, so for instance, there's a scene where we see a cup filled with a bunch of tools, and it's implied that one of the cars has put all the tools in there.
I mean, they have forklifts. Isn't that like their entire reason for existence?
But if you're just a regular car getting around and there's not a forklift, how are you gonna lift stuff? And
every car has a personal forklift. That's their slave.
But they don't show that.
So anyway, because of the intervention of the spunky car girl, he's forced to stay and fix the road. And the movie has this moment where he thinks she is his defense lawyer, and she's there to get him out. And he treats her like a sexist, misogynist pig, basically saying, you and I are going to have lunch and hook up. And then he finds out she is the prosecution, so it's kind of a funny moment. But they threw that in there to kind of show how much of a pig McQueen is.
Yeah.
So he's forced to fix the road, and he does it real fast. Does a terrible job, actually. Makes more work for himself. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking, and he's losing time to woo the sponsors and everything. So that's the crisis towards the beginning of the movie. He has to find a way to get back. The things that make this film so interesting to dissect from a right-wing perspective become really apparent at this part of the movie. We are introduced to the town of Radiator Springs in the American Southwest. It is never stated what state it takes place in, but I think it's in Nevada or California. There are a lot of small towns in that area that are sort of stuck in time in the 40s and 50s Americana. And that's ultimately what the movie is about, is this lost culture. You get to meet the citizens of the town. The first is a guy named Mater, who is clearly the white working man. He's portrayed as very stupid, and he's out of shape and rusty. Then you have the old lady, and she's like from 1915, and she rattles and leaks. There's the trope of the old white woman who has seen everything and is somehow holding on to life. I remember going to a store once and meeting a woman, and I don't remember much of the conversation, but somehow she reveals that I'm from 1930.
Wow.
And I'm like, Jesus, you're old as crap. I didn't say that. But...
There are some people who just hang on.
They really are. There are people from that era that are just somehow here.
Yeah.
Then you have the bus played by George Carlin, and you can't tell that it's him because he's doing this hippie voice, man. Do you know who George Carlin is?
No.
Okay, he was a voice actor and political commentator. He sells organic fuel, and nobody wants to buy it, which is funny. His next door neighbor is a military jeep that plays the national anthem and stuff, and they don't like each other. They go back and forth like the jeep will say, "You did too many drugs in the 60s," effectively. And then there was the lowrider, played by Cheech Marin. It is worth noting that he is Disney's safe Hispanic voice actor. I know he played one of the hyenas in The Lion King.
Okay.
This happens in Hollywood where a Mexican will start out as a bad character and they become safe. If you go back and watch the old Cheech and Chang movies, Cheech and Chong, they stole stuff and did drugs and had sex all the time with loose women. He's the only non-American and totally non-threatening. The rest of the movie is a celebration of American culture and a paradise lost. The love interest girl car is the stereotypical rich girl that wants a normal life. She doesn't want to settle down. There's the old cop car. He's a late 1940s cop car. The little three-wheeler is Italian. The town is dying, and it is a metaphor of how progress destroyed a beautiful culture in the quest to get it back. The girl says at one point, "We are a town worth saving, worth fixing." Paul Newman plays the mayor of the town. I think this is his last movie before he died. And it is revealed that he was an old race car, but he was injured and replaced, and he is bitter about it. He teaches Lightning how to not be stuck up. He teaches him how to grow up. It's a very masculine movie. It's a weird movie. In the end, all is resolved by the star power of Lightning McQueen, which is a bullcrap cop-out. That doesn't happen in real life.
What are you talking about? I really like the ending.
The problem is real, but the solution is not.
Of him bringing the town back to life.
Right. It's a kid's movie playing on baby boomer nostalgia. It's got this nostalgia for a time that only existed for a brief period. And the people who experienced that are aging. The people who are our age have no inkling of what this used to be. I guess that's something that kind of nagged me while I was watching the movie. Is it gets this idea that these things are worth preserving, but it doesn't really seem to drive home why that is. And I think that actually reveals why one of its biggest faults is that it feels like a bit of a superficial movie at times.
I agree with that.
Because it doesn't understand that stuff. People...
Well, I think that one of the biggest positive traits about that time period and about traditional American culture is actually the family and the joy that comes from the responsibility within the family and getting to lift people up. I think having family members that maybe rely on you can give you this sense of purpose. It can sort of help you become a better person. And I think that, I think there's only one couple actually in Radiator Springs, and it's really not emphasizing, wow, community is obviously a big draw. I think that family is the bigger draw of that lifestyle and having close-knit families.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So people were apparently just in small towns that were nice for no reason. There's no understanding of why these things developed and why these things changed. I guess people just became more cold and uncaring and focused on money and whatnot.
But it's money that saves the town. It's
That's a good point.
it's ultimately. It's funny because I feel like a lot of what I hear today is very anti-tourism rhetoric about, tourism is bad for communities
Right.
and this is a very pro-tourism movie. This
It
movie
is.
is like, you not being a tourist is ruining lives.
Right, right. And I'm kind of anti-tourist for like big cities, like Washington D.C. I remember being in an art museum, and it was so packed that you couldn't even really see the art exhibits. That's just something that comes to mind. I remember being annoyed.
Yeah. I'm against, tourism that hurts communities, but I just love travel too much to be fully against it.
Right. There's that paradox. There are some undercuts of xenophobia in the movie. I was amused when the outsider couple, the minivans,
Yeah.
they come into town and everybody starts trying to sell them stuff, and the couple keeps politely declining until Cheech Marin's character comes up and is like, "Hey Holmes, do you want pinstriping?" And he basically shows them his junk, which happens a couple of times. He shows his undercarriage, and the couple immediately lock their doors and speed away.
Which again raises the question: is can a car open another car's doors?
These are the real questions.
Can you get inside of a car in this universe?
Oh no. It's such a weird movie. We already pointed out the ethnic characteristics in this, but there's other stuff too, like Lightning McQueen. The name is obviously, or to me it's obviously, a reference to Steve McQueen.
You could be making that person up and I wouldn't know.
He was an actor. Bullet, the movie Bullet, as one of the best car chase scenes I've ever seen. Every boomer wanted to be Steve McQueen.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting because Steve McQueen is a sort of classy, old school, kind of cool guy. But it's like a guy putting on a fedora and not understanding why a fedora was a fedora. Lightning is basically trying to be as flashy as possible without understanding what makes a man a man. He's not cool. He doesn't deserve to win. And at the very end of the movie, the whole town comes to the race as his pit crew, and he really wants to win this race. And there's this bad guy, car character, who has been unimportant up until now, who's a veteran, and he wants to win too, but he's always been in the shadow of the king. And McQueen's going to beat him for this honor to beat the king and become the Dinoco sponsor. So this evil car does everything he can to screw McQueen, and in the final race, he ends up playing dirty and injuring the king so bad that he can't finish the race. Lightning ends up pushing the king to the finish line and loses the race.
In a symbolic way of respecting tradition, right? Respecting the people that came before you and seeing their importance.
You could view it that way. I saw it more as just him becoming a better person and learning to, let go of his desires for, basic morality, which I guess you could also see from
I see both.
Sure. So at the end of the movie, bad car wins. Nobody likes him. They throw the trophy at him. And he's all like, "Hey, what's going on? I'm the winner." While Lightning gets the sponsorship because of his good character. So there's a good moral message for a person there, although the world doesn't really work out that way. Putting others before yourself and hoping someone notices your good character, in truth, is not the way you get ahead. That doesn't work. People are always only going to see how you perform. If they are actually watching your performance, it's happened to me before in life when I was working real hard on things and people didn't really see me doing them, so they were wondering what the hell I was doing with all my time. Let that be a lesson for anyone listening. Don't take that kind of bullcrap seriously. Make sure you're seen doing the good things, otherwise you might as well not even be doing them. At least as far as material advancement goes. I made a video about the conservative magazine National Review, and I remember an article came out a few years ago making fun of the American working class in these small rural towns, calling them drug addicted redneck hillbillies, and basically saying that these towns deserve to die. I remember hearing something on the news just before the election about worker retraining, like in the Midwest, Michigan and Ohio. Oh, all these people need to move away and get a different job, but there aren't jobs available that pay what they used to make. We're talking about a guy who's like 50 years old. He's got 14 years left in his working life. What can he realistically learn in a year? Is he going to take 2 years off? Is he going to be working at the plant busting his ass off like when he was 25? We don't really like to talk about economics too much because it's such a divisive subject. Probably worse than religion. But people are not liquid items that can just go anywhere and do anything. Capital is far more mobile than labor. So labor is always at a disadvantage. We're getting pretty far away from the movie. But since we are talking about economics and deindustrialization, which relates to cars, there is a book called A Call for Economic Nationalism. And it's a short read, a good read. And it concentrates on the economic capital flight from the Rust Belt in Ohio and Michigan, and such. And it's mostly about how the steel corporations totally screwed the American worker by using their production facilities in those areas to accumulate capital, to invest in overseas production, and then shut down the domestic plant, which is a cycle that they've repeated over and over and over again. But I highly recommend the book. It was written by one of the Vandell brothers, who I don't really like because they love to get drunk and yell about white Sharia. They're white nationalists, which I think is a ridiculous ideology, but every now and then they write something that's really good stuff. So Cars is a good movie. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you have kids. It does not have any explicit degeneracy. I don't think there's any implied homosexuality in the entire movie. Cheech Marin plays a lowrider, so it's pretty much just whitewash and wholesome. But you could do a lot worse, because as time moves forward, these kids' movies became filled with a lot more degeneracy. I know we're not here to talk about this movie, but in stark contrast, you have the movie Rio, which I liked as a kid, but now realize how wrong I was. I know that you've seen it because you're obsessed with birds.
The Spix macaws are so cool.
They don't exist anymore, right?
They don't exist in the wild, but there are people who breed them in captivity.
And is it a real bird species in the movie?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just based on something, it's a real... Okay.
Yeah.
But for those who may not have seen it, it's about these parrots down in Brazil. And the friendly, helpful character is voiced by Lopez, the damn America-hating George Lopez. And it's all like, oh, we are the Mexican bird family, and it's so great. Look at all our colors. And the villain of the movie is a white cockatoo. He's pure white, and he used to be like a champion showbird. And he like pines for his days of superiority, and he's like the evil white bird longing for his lost age. It's so explicit if you are viewing it from a red-pilled perspective. I had to mention it because it's like a contrast. That's where they go with this stuff. That's all I have to say about this movie. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. I didn't super like it. I don't know. I just think I'm just not the target audience. I don't like sports in general.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to not like...
Well, you're from California. I grew up in the South.
Right.
So NASCAR is huge here.
Right. I don't have that sort of interest in cars that I think I've seen in a lot of men. So I'm not watching it and going, wow, it's one of those.
I mean, I'm not an expert on race cars or anything. I could only name like Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Right. Yeah, and I think as someone who moved from a big city to a small town and did not like it, it's just not a movie that I vibe with.
What is the biggest sport in California?
Probably. Gosh, you're asking the wrong person. I'm gonna say the wrong thing. Yeah, I don't know. My dad liked basketball. I really don't know what else to say. People talked about sports and I didn't listen.
Right.
Yeah, I think especially compared to other Pixar movies, the emotional through line of the movie is very weak. I don't know. A lot of the characters they really didn't go that deep with. They were more sort of caricatures to make jokes about.
Everyone's a stereotype in the movie.
Yeah, well, we're going to get to that. That's sort of my biggest issue, I think.
Right.
The other thing that I kept coming back to in the movie is as someone who drove on the interstate. So a big theme in the movie is the interstate. When the interstate came in, it killed a lot of these towns because the only road used to be to get through the towns. And so when he went through the towns...
Well, it was Route 66.
Right, Route 66, right.
I don't think you could even drive that all the way anymore.
I'm not certain about that. But I drove the interstate that replaced Route 66. I rode from California to Alabama, and the whole time you're on it, you're basically, going parallel to Route 66, or, for a lot of the ways, and you would still, every time you went to get gas or whatever, you would go on Route 66, and then you would land in the small towns. And so the whole time I was watching this movie, I kept thinking, this can't be as big of an issue as they're talking about.
I mean, in fairness, we only see one town.
Yeah, and I'm sure it happened in individual towns, but it wasn't as big of a deal for as many small towns as the movie sort of implies.
It may not be the majority, but it certainly happened to a lot of them, and it's still, a tragedy.
I'm not saying...
Especially since, like, the highway interstate was hugely important. It did a lot of good. The specific route that ended up ruining 66 didn't do a lot. It didn't actually do a lot to contribute to the fast, swift movement from point A to point B, from east to west. But
well, I haven't looked into it that specifically, but I imagine if it really did go through these towns, like the movie's implying, you would have to go a lot slower, right? And you get stoplights and...
Sure.
Because, I've done road tripping, and whenever you're road tripping and you have to go through towns instead of being on the interstate, it's a lot slower. Or that you can even run into traffic, But, no, I mean, it was cool because, obviously I recognized the scenery to some extent.
Mm-hmm. I think part of it's just by my personality, because I'm always it's about the journey, not the destination kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I know that there are people who do not have that mentality.
Yeah. It was when we were moving, and we pretty much wanted to get there. Mm-hmm. We were pretty much focused on getting there. Yeah, I mean, I did like the moral message of the movie. I liked the main character's journey. I liked, its sort of themes about forgetting tradition.
Right.
I agree with a lot of the themes that, you talked about. I also have some issues.
Please tell.
I think my biggest issue is with Mater. Mater is... becomes the best friend of McQueen when McQueen is in Radiator Springs, the town, and Mater is very dumb, and not very attractive, and he felt so dumb as to be autistic. Like, it felt like he had a learning disability.
Mm-hmm.
Just with his inability to follow social situations to that extent. And I understand that dumb characters can be very comedic, but something about the way he was written rubbed me the wrong way. Like, it just felt like it was making fun. Well, he's the only one with a southern accent, right?
Right.
I felt like it was making fun of southern people for being dumb.
There is another Southern car. The owner of Dynaco has a Texan accent.
Okay.
And he's, not stupid.
Yeah. But
The king also is not stupid, and he's also Texan.
yeah, but I felt like they were sort of doing a different sort of stereotype with Mater.
Okay, yeah.
Which, yeah, I didn't...
He's also a much more prominent character.
Yeah, and much more southern. His accent's a lot stronger.
Right.
Yeah, it just felt unkind the way he was written.
Mm.
And I don't know, just disrespectful of those sorts of people. But then again, I don't like comic relief in general. I didn't like his character in general, so I don't know how much of that was coding it.
Yeah. Who else do you not like, Sapphire? Who else do you have a problem with?
In the movie?
Uh-huh.
I guess he's the main one.
Uh-huh.
I didn't like the hippie car, but I sort of disliked that whole culture. So.
Sure. That makes sense.
I grew up around a lot of them in California, and yeah, and they. This is getting very off topic, but a lot of the ones that I met had this sort of like chronic otherism and this sort of disdain for like most people in a way that I felt sort of off-putting. That you see, I don't know, it comes up a little bit in the movie where the military car and the 60s car can't get along, but I don't know, they're playing that for laughs, so I'm gonna stop there.
Okay. I think we've said all that there is to say. What movie do you think we should review next? We could either review Cars 2, I think should be our next one.
That would be
since we're talking about...
That would be an interesting one, since you are, I think, the only person on planet Earth that actually enjoys that movie.
Enjoys is a strong word. And I haven't seen it in, it came out in 2011. I haven't seen it since it came out.
Okay.
So, 11-year-old me and modern me, I'm sure, have quite a different taste and judgment of the great form of art that is film. So it's going to be very interesting to see how my views have changed.
I hope you like it even more this time.
Well, the film is about this kind of international race, so it's going to be interesting to see how they portray all these different nations and their cultures.
Yeah.
But we will talk about that in our next film review. Thank you guys. It's been a blast.
Bye.